Little I ask, my wants are few. I only wish a hut of stone, a very plain brown stone will do, that I may call my own. And close at hand is such a one, in yonder street that fronts the sun.
Times indeed were simple, necessity over commodity. Honest work paid one's wage and made content the people who had so little. East Longmeadow's humble emergence was in 1720, a time preceded by De Salle's founding of New Orleans. Also at the forefront was the culmination of Queen Anne's War, a treaty made at Utrecht. The year following, South Carolina became a colony under Britain, great foreign commotion giving rise to immigration, most notably the Germans and Scot-Irish to the middle colonies. But amongst all the chaos came a small community with an agricultural center.
Bound only by its proximity to the Connecticut River, the town flourished as such. Eventually, the new Swedish, French-Canadian, and Italian immigrants flocked to Massachusetts, sparking the growth of an industry far more successful than farming. The workers in search of employment reflect the demographic of East Longmeadow today, a mark on the town's longevity and rich culture.
In 1894, East Longmeadow officially became its own town, formerly called East Village. Longmeadow, known as the street, faced uneven taxation, 1/3 of the population paying 2/3 of the taxes. Upon agreement, the dictation of 13.4 square miles was given to East Village, marking our official separation and beginning. In 1876, nearly 18 years previous to our establishment, our stores of redstone and sandstone became a valued resource in the American Industrial Revolution. As industry boomed across the country, hundreds of immigrants flooded to the U.S. to find jobs in manufacturing. Thus, the construction of housing and factories drove the country's rising demand of stone and, in turn, transformed our once local quarrying business into a nationwide industry.
The Norcross Brothers, a stone provider and distribution company, grew the intrigue upon the creation of our railroad. This railroad was essential in the allocation of East Longmeadow's stone to the rest of the country, as well as the immigration of quarry workers to the area. The station in which our economy developed into adulthood still remains, a testament to the foundation in which we were built. The typical quarry worker lived a relatively simple life, as his salary of 23 cents per hour was enough to provide for his family, but not enough to afford many luxuries of the era. The process of quarrying was primitive before the manufacturing boom of the 1900s, where workers switched from the slow, old-fashioned process of cutting and moving rock by hand to the commonality of blasting.
I brought my helmet because safety is the number one priority. And then I brought my favorite rope from Steve. Steve is my first lead climbing guide, so very important rope. Fixed completely now. Then I have all this hardware, all really important stuff to not only protect me but protect the gear and everything that we're going to be doing. I have this daisy chained nylon strap here, which if you undo it, it comes apart really easily. And it's just, nylon is known for being really strong, so it's definitely really good resource for setting up an anchor point no matter where you are. And the final piece of vital gear that I need for this is my ATC, air traffic control. It's a system that allows me to lock myself in, but also let myself slowly go down the side of the cliff. So it's really kind of one of those important tools that is going to allow me to do what I'm about to do today. So the way that they chose to build a lot of quarries and kind of follow their system through was with blasting, like I just mentioned. And in the case of the workers here, what they would do is there'd be this large gap in the rock where an explosive would be placed. Nowadays they do multiple explosives and they're more controlled. There's little chasms of
of space. And a lot of times that would just come naturally from the rock being broken through normal tools like pickaxes or even kind of like sharper hammered objects. And because of that, there's so much that comes out of this quarry. But
The end of the blasting process was treated much like a celebratory event in the town, as people generally like to gather around the quarry to watch the explosion go off. However, blasting creates a huge culmination of dust, which often left workers with respiratory and cardiovascular diseases. Although relatively unnoticed at the time, quarrying also drove animals from their homes, as well as polluted the natural water supply and disrupted the growth of vegetation.
by the 1950s, the quarrying business quickly fell apart when cheaper building materials were found to be more efficient, making the use of red or sandstone a most futile choice. Cement and steel became popular, shifting East Longmeadow from an industrial center to a suburban-centric town. Our working class moved to find jobs in the factories of Springfield, while the wealthier and middle classes left the bustle of the city for the quiet lull of suburban life.
Today, East Longmeadow remains a product of the cultures of different peoples, brought together by an industry driven by hard work, mixed with a suburban way of life. The missing vegetation and wildlife has since returned to the quarry, and the town has adopted it as public land. Our redstone and sandstone can be found in buildings across the country, in such notable places as the Smithsonian Museum, Trinity Church, and Harvard. And in the remains of our quarry, which is now only rubble, lays not only our history of working ancestors and economic success, but the birth of a town we call home.
Thus humble let me live and die, nor long for Midas' golden touch. If heaven more generous gifts deny, I shall not miss them much. Too grateful for the blessings lent of simple tastes and mind content.